Hey guys, this is Will from Dancing with the Bards. I just wanted to come on here before the episode starts with a little disclaimer that the audio is less than perfect this episode. We did our best to edit around it, and we believe that most of the conversation is still intelligible. With that out of the way, please enjoy this episode of Dancing with the Bards.
Is that the right pen for you, bud?
No. I need something to play with that's quiet.
Go find another pen. We will wait.
Do you have a fidget toy?
I've been trying to I keep on trying to find the Aaron's thinking putty when it's on sale, but even on sale it's like $8. I keep wanting to get you the thing.
I was gonna silly putty.
I got silly putty stuck in my hair like 3 weeks ago. I can't be trusted with that.
Okay.
That's the cut going in.
Welcome to Dancing with the Bards, where we review TTRPG board games and help you choose what comes next on your table. Today I'm here with special guest Max, a pleasure as always, as well as our bardic duo, Ian and Will.
Hello.
Hey!
Now, Will, on the way in, I checked your mailbox, and you had a letter from your grandfather, so I thought I'd read it on the air for you.
Okay, yeah.
Dear Will, if you are reading this, you must be in dire need of change. The same thing happened to me a long time ago when I lost sight of what mattered in life. Real connection with other people. You could have done that through our Discord, though, bud.
Yeah.
Enclosed is the deed to my pride and joy, the Bard's Farm located in Stardew Valley Boardgame on the southern shelf of your game shelf, your southern shelf. It's perfect place to start your new life and lose your mind. That's right, we're reviewing Ian's favorite genre, co-op games with Stardew Valley, the board game adaptation.
Yay.
I know that about you, Ian.
Yeah, the little known secret, I love co-op games where I don't get to win.
For those who can't see his face, he seems super genuine.
Oh, absolutely.
He loves sharing the glory.
I have never seen Ian happier playing a game than when he was playing Stardew.
Especially when I had to look through the rulebook the entire game. So much fun.
But that's like the thing you love to do already, though. Don't
You do love rule books.
I do, but that's beside the point.
That's the truth. Everything else was a lie.
It ruined it for me.
No, I did see him break down
Yeah.
slowly as we literally asked him about an aspect of the game twice, and then like 10 seconds later, okay, say that again? Because we weren't sure.
I learned it in about 10 minutes and spent the rest of the game re-educating myself and everyone else every single time.
It was
It's
just,
a lot.
yeah, it was so much.
Where do you want to start, guys? We'll start with saying this was my game for birthday. So yay, April birthdays. This was my choice because I have a long-standing obsession with Stardew Valley.
Do I?
Yes, which is why you're here.
Yeah, I actually bought you the video game.
Yes. And it's been a problem ever since.
I do not apologize for that whatsoever.
I think we're all in agreement, first and foremost, that we all do enjoy Stardew Valley, the video game, to some capacity.
I've actually never played Stardew Valley.
We're changing that a bit. Maybe that's what we'll do next time we stream together.
Honestly, yeah.
All right, fine.
We'll make Bard Farms a real thing instead of just a catchy intro. So number of players.
Oh, yeah.
This says from 2 to 4. You can play it on your own, I think.
I think it's
There are
one
one
to
player
four.
rules.
1 to
Was it
4?
two? I think there is a way.
When I was looking, you can play it on your own. Oh, it is 1 to 4. 1 to 4. I don't know
Says
why.
on the box here.
I can't read. I'm dyslexic, quite literally. I have a pedigree. You think I'm joking, but anyone who is on the short bus with me knows we have a binder at home of every test we've ever taken.
Yeah.
You come with a pedigree. So 1 to 4 players. We played with 4, and it was chaotic to say the least.
Yeah. Normally, I think 4 to 6 range is kind of our happy golden range, easy 3 points. I think in this case, the more people you add up to 4, the more chaotic this becomes. I don't necessarily know if adding more people is going to make any of the tasks more realistic in the given time frame.
No, because they do ramp up difficulty based on the number of players, which usually is something I like, but in this game took away from it a little bit. So that's why I gave it a 2. I mean, the more we play as this, and I'll be playing this more, I'm sure it becomes easier, but as a first-time player in, it made it a lot more difficult than expected.
It was just overwhelming. They didn't scale correctly. So there was way too much to do, especially when we really weren't familiar with all the mechanics of the board game. So we didn't have like a plan, like an overall plan how to tackle completing this game. Like there is a planning phase involved in this game, but that's like not enough.
Yeah. It had the heart. It was doing everything that a game should do. It should scale in difficulty. It just needed like another round of playtesting or something.
I mean, I gave it a 3 for number of players. Like Will said, it's in the area of my golden range. I mean, maybe 1 to 5 is usually what I say, but I think 4 is more than enough for this. I didn't really get the sense that the scaling would be too different based on number of players, because I mean the only real thing is the resources that you need in order to unlock the community chests or community centers. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's a different
It's
game.
okay.
And the number of grandpa's objectives that you have, right?
Yeah.
So if you had 1 player, it's 1 heart to unlock each community center
Yes.
and 1 overall challenge, which I mean for 4 players we have 4. So theoretically it should be pretty much the same, and then just 1 certain resource to reach that point for to unlock the actual to complete the center after you've unlocked it.
Yeah.
I am curious as to how difficult it is to play with 1 or 2 people, and how much the experience differs from like a full body.
Yeah.
That is one thing I've always kind of like wished we did it for the podcast a little more, but with our setup and like
And our
how
schedule.
and our schedule, doing like 1 and 2 player games doesn't make sense for a podcast that stars 3 stars usually at any given time at least.
Yeah.
But and we usually do groups, larger groups, because we always have a larger group for games.
I will say I have played it with 2, but in a very different context. We kind of looked at the rules and said we're going to do our own thing. This was a corner of the room, like puzzle table style game for us. And I found it very relaxing in that way with 2 players. My bigger issue with when it scales is like for Grandpa's objective, we needed 2 times the number of players worth of animals. That's already needing 8 animals, plus what other objectives we had. And we had another one that scaled 2. I can't remember which it was. But it was another one where it was like 2 times the number of players.
Yeah.
Oh, the number of improvements on your farm. So you had to do all of the things possible, which was just a lot.
We didn't even touch on the museum aspect of it,
Oh,
which I was working on.
Yes.
And I got, try to say, 2 of them. 2 of them.
I will also say we did that wrong, because every time you got something into, I think we did it wrong. Every time we got something into the museum, we were supposed to get a heart for it.
Yeah.
No, we were supposed to get a heart for it. So we lost out on 2 hearts.
You know what? That was the case because we just kept forgetting. We overlooked it over everything else because there's just so much to remember.
So I think it's in. So we were playing edition 1. I believe in edition 2 they added a reminder underneath the museum to get a heart if you add to it.
That is definitely something I'm going to get into at the very end of the podcast when we talk about complexity.
Yes.
Less so comprehension, but a little bit comprehension too.
Yeah. So diving into comprehension.
Well, inclusivity.
Segue. Oh, inclusivity?
Yeah, we skipped inclusivity.
That's because I reversed it. So we had to write out our sheets this time, and I reversed it.
No, well, hey, let's say comprehension.
No, it doesn't really matter. Go back to a normal inclusivity.
How dare you move outside of the organization of our podcast, our meticulously crafted rubric that we definitely didn't spend just half an hour on and a revision after 15 minutes later.
Hey, that was at least like a 45-minute, an hour-long process. There was some strong debate going on back and forth.
We based our scoring off of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was not that deep.
Folks, I've never seen these people so rattled by a board game.
So inclusivity. I gave it a 2. There's nothing about this other than the complexity that would stop you. There's no like pieces are too close to the same color. The fonts they use are nice and easy to read. There's no math.
Fair.
I like the shapes for the rivers. They assigned like shapes
and colors so that you can differentiate them.
Maybe I am being a little bit harsh, but I feel like if this wasn't a Stardew Valley game, and this was, if we're just looking at it as worker placement board game,
generic farm game,
it's generic farm game. I don't really think that this is like it is really complicated. The rule book is like an actual book.
Well, like if it were something that weren't branded as something Stardew, then the objectives that we needed to complete, you'd be asking why? Why do we have to do all of this just to win the board game? And it has to do with the board game trying to translate elements from the video game to format, and that's why it's become so complex. And then you're not really questioning why you would have to do all of this. No,
I do understand what you mean. There is a little bit of suspension of disbelief, and I'm going to get into this further down. But yeah, no, like you were saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it does a good job of trying to incorporate those elements from the video game, but in doing so, it makes it complex and kind of overwhelming to figure out all the mechanics of the board game that was being translated from the video game.
I'll also say for the complexity, they did put in a lot of things to help, which is why I gave it a better score in inclusivity. They had a way to set it up already listed out in the rule book so that you had a suggested way to lay it out to make it easier. Everything was labeled as best they can, and they revisited some of it when they needed to in the other editions of it. They did what they could for a complex game to make it as friendly as possible, but at the end of the day, it was a complex game.
Yeah, I agree with that. The game, for the most part, used pictures and symbols to specify certain actions, events, and different mechanics, as opposed to giving you pieces of text or things like that. For example, when we had the season cards, the season day cards, there were a list of specific symbols that were supposed to reference certain events that occurred. Like the green crow, we immediately knew one of the crops from that area or from the green area are going away. The cat meant that the first player was changed. Something like that, I think, goes a long way to kind of helping with anyone who might have difficulty seeing color or reading certain fonts or text or anything. Once you have memorized what each event does and what each symbol means, it makes gameplay move a little faster. You're not reading things as often. You just kind of look at it and you're like, okay, this means that. Yeah. I gave it a 2 because there are so many of them. There are 9 different resources. There are like 10 different kinds of actions, several that have different sub-actions that you take within that, which are all broken down more or less into symbols. But
yeah,
when you have that many symbols, it becomes sort of a memory thing at that point. They
did have a list of symbols for the Seasons deck directly next to where you were offloading the season.
For the Seasons deck, yes, they did. For the actions and the resources and everything else like that, not so much. Yeah. They had the pictures there, but several times we would look at like a one of the villager requests, and we're like, is that ore? Is that rock? Is that metal? Is that bronze? Like, you look at a blob of a gray blob on a picture, and it's a little harder to identify when you have 3 different gray blobs that you can choose from.
Yeah, and although it is very close to the original artwork, it is not the original artwork from the game, which does make it a little harder for people who are seasoned with Stardew. because we can recognize clay or like iron ore versus what is a good comparison here? Help me, Max. Like two things that look kind of close together.
Yes, the geodes.
Yeah, geodes and stones. Geodes and stones are a good one because they are very similar, but the ones we are used to aren't necessarily the ones that are on the board game.
Yeah, that was the only reason that I docketed a point on inclusivity. I felt like the system works. It's good. But there's so much to it, and I've been told that that's not unusual for this is classified as like a Euro game, but I don't think it was well executed, which is something you'll hear me say a lot.
Yeah. I will mention this is the third game done by this designer. It's very interesting. He actually details through a blog post on Board Game Geek his process for creating the game, which is very cool and insightful. But this is still the third game that he's done, and the other ones don't seem to be at this level of complexity. So being the first really complex game is pretty chill. Like first try, not bad, but maybe not, our normal concerned ape expectations.
We've been jumping back and forth into comprehension.
Yeah.
Sometimes to skip over other parts of the rubric, and sometimes because it just is going to come up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
This
is like our crib notes. We just have this here to help us jump off.
But I gave this a 1.5 for comprehension. I would have given it a 2 because I spent a lot of time with the rulebook and going back and forth and determining what each action meant and what we could do with that action as we went through the game. It was very helpful. The rulebook is very well written. It's not like a dull read. They kind of put a little life into it, which is nice. They have references, so like if you're looking at the end of turn actions, for example, it says, okay, here's what the basic end of turn actions are. See the complete list at page 20. And there were only like 25 pages for the whole book, so it's not too bad. All large text, all in nice boxes, all well organized with symbols and pictures to represent each thing on each one. But the mechanics are so excessive. And that's kind of where I removed a point from that too. There are 9 different resources, all that are gathered in different ways. And they're not overly complex, but at a certain point, it bogs everything else down when all of those resources are needed to complete a full game within a 16-turn period.
For me, the comprehension, Max and I were talking after, and anyone who's played Stardew for any extended period of time has 2 tabs open on their computer at all time, one being the wiki and one being the actual game itself. You switch between those 2 constantly. So to have that rulebook in your hand is pretty on par for most people's game experiences. I actually have next to me the bound version of 1.5 wiki that was done in the Kickstarter with it. And this thing I have used so much. So I gave it a 2 for comprehension just because it is on par with what you expect if you play the game at it.
Curious about the guidebook. Does it give you schedules of the villagers? Like where they would be?
I don't remember if it's the schedule of the villagers. I know it has just about everything else, but I never looked at that. I
would use that part of the wiki all the time just to know where
for me it's
people
the fish
that I need to gift. I'm trying to give someone a gift. I need to know where they are.
This is true.
And there are mods for this on PC, which one of the best ones to have in order to just raise your friendship with these villagers.
To be fair, I never put a big emphasis on that in my gameplay. I was more trying to get through the fishing as quick as possible because it's a slog for me with a trackpad. So I wanted to know exactly where the fish are and when to get them and what time of year because I could not remember that and I wanted to get it over with. But it's very like I said, it's very on par to what you experience playing it is holding that book in your hands or opening that wiki to refer back constantly.
The spirit of playing Stardew is definitely.
Yes.
Just to jump off of that, I feel like if they had taken less overall elements from Stardew, like for the museum, for example, if we just kind of got rid of that whole element, that would have gone a long way to reduce the sort of extraneous mechanics that were baked into this game. I realized that they wanted to make this feel as close to the actual game as possible, but it just has too many mechanics and it's gotten too complex, I think, for its own good.
I just thought of something. In the video game, a lot of people do make the challenge of completing everything, or at least the base of the community center, grandpa's goals for you. A lot of people try to go for year one completion, but in reality, in the game, you get judged for your completion at the end of year two. At the
End of year two.
End of year
so
two.
year three,
Yes.
technically.
So at year three,
That's-
you get
yeah.
2 full years
Yeah.
of completing all your tasks or your base tasks, because there's after game stuff in the video game at this point.
There's everything. There's so much.
But here you're stuck to 1 year by the base
Base rules. Even if you use, they have alternative rules. It's scale, but
as well. At the end of that judgment from Grandpa in the video game, you get a rating of candles lit at his shrine. So I was wondering if, depending on how much you complete in this board game, you could have gotten like
stars
or candles. So
you
it wouldn't be
3 out of 5 rating.
It wouldn't be a complete loss or a complete win. Like, I think that would have felt a little better.
That would have been easy if you could complete 1 out of the 3 tasks, like either complete all of Grandpa's, all of the
museum.
Thank you. Museum is the word I was looking for. Whew. And the community center.
And turn it into a point-based system.
Yeah, so that you could feel accomplished and not feel like you lost immediately.
And compare how well you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you could turn that into like a legacy game.
This is definitely one that you could make that. Like with the rules that I used to play, it was very much a just reshuffle the deck and keep going kind of situation.
That would actually be kind of fun.
Oh yeah, that's what I said. We used to keep it out on a coffee table. Go for 15, 20 minutes, do stuff out, write little notes on what we had done, and then leave.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, the complexity of this really eats into it. And I'll talk about the fact that it's not, with the resources, how they're managed is just all over the place. As compared to some 4X games where you have a lot of different resources at your disposal, but you can usually focus on 2 or 3 to really push and only kind of have a general grasp on the other 6. This one, all 9, you need to have a firm grasp on how you're managing them every turn.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the appeal on that. But to then have different methods of collecting each one makes it a lot harder to understand, and means you're going to be referring to that rule book, especially for new players, all the time. You have to stop what you're doing every single turn to make sure that you're doing it right. Unless you have this memorized, you're playing with people that have played frequently before, which I'm going to be honest, I had never heard of this game until Brooke brought it to me, so I don't know many people who play it. It's going to be happening frequently.
Yes, but that is also on par with the video game. The people who like Stardew they very much like Stardew.
You're all nuts.
Yes. No, it's a way to make chaos of life streamline. You have the rule book for once in your life. Like a lot of us who listen to this podcast probably feel like we were just dropped into a world and not given the rule book, and we've been struggling ever since. Well, Stardew fixes that. They give you the rule book in a beautiful wiki. That's why I like it. Quantum materials, because I have to.
We can after we hit availability.
Like this one. This one's tricky.
God, the Fuhrer over here with his list of. We must
See,
go to water.
You'd really like Stardew if you just gave it a chance.
I wrote everything in order.
Session. I did
with
not.
Detailed notes next to each one.
I even added in availability, so my score is going to change. Only my printer was working when we played the game.
Well, you shouldn't have so many tabs open. But
no, I need to.
So many tabs.
I have ADHD.
And so do I.
That's also my pedigree.
I have. Okay, I have a good amount of tabs open, but they were on my main screen.
I also love how they're organized in random spots all over your desktop. But
there's organization. Bottom's important. Side is important.
Middle.
At least mine are all on one Chrome tab. They're all there.
That's the secret. It looks less bad when you have 4 windows of 15 tabs instead of 45 or 60 tabs in one window.
Where you can barely see the icon, you just have the little X.
Full desktop background. Very ADHD. It moves and everything.
It's for those just listening, it is the solar system slowly orbiting, which is absolutely mesmerizing. And we all should not look at it too long.
I haven't stopped looking.
I know.
But for availability, I gave it a 3. I wouldn't be surprised to find something like this at a Target shelf. It is not, though.
It is not.
It doesn't seem particularly difficult to get a hold of online.
No. I gave it a 2 just because it's currently out of stock on Concerned Apes website. So you can get it for like $56 when normally it's on the website about $50. So it's a tiny upcharge because it's no longer available in the main merchant site, which I'm hoping means they're going to put out a 4th edition where they fix even more things. So yeah, I will give it a 2.
All right, now you can move on to materials.
Okay. So normally I go into everything possibly wrong with this, but I would unfortunately this time I don't have the other edition, so I can say that because they changed their cutting method. Because I'm sure you didn't notice, but the parsnips were cut wrong. So the word parsnip was cut in half on the gold side of parsnips. It happened to a couple other ones too, like just the formatting was off when they went to go print it, so then the die cut it wrong. And there was also, when I was popping all individual pieces out originally, I don't know the technical word for it, the perforation, I guess, for it was a little too long, so a lot of times it would snap off and rip at the picture instead of like cleanly pop out. But supposedly, according to every place I've looked, that has changed with the newest edition. So the materials have gone up, but the goddamn box organization is a nightmare and has not fixed itself at all. They got quote unquote new dividers for the bottom bit, but all it does is give you a little finger hole to pop it up, and it does not deal with the 60 bags in here. There's so many bags. I don't even use all the bags. I put them in categories because I physically cannot use the bags.
Could you imagine having to individually bag both the cards and the season? It's smart how you bag things by season, but like
I used to have to do that before I got this in the split. I originally owned this with another person. When I owned it with the other person, it had to go into the right bags. Now I can do what I want.
I think I was talking to Max about this as we were leaving. Could have really used some better organization. If you had raised the cost of this by $10 to put some cheap plastic molded organizers in there, like what they had for Eclipse or Castles of the Mad King. Ludwig has those, basically the same ones, these little tins that come in the box that you can put all the counters and stuff in. Would have been great. Would have been very helpful.
This is where I'm going to plug 2 things. One, if you look up Stardew Valley 3D print insert by Print and Play 3D on Thingiverse, they have a free file for a 3D print to organize this goddamn mess. Or if you want to get fancy for $50, there is a really nice organizer by Walnut and Design Co. on Etsy, which is laser etched. But Thingiverse is free. Don't be like me and just suffer. I actually ordered the nice wooden one since I don't have a 3D pen.
I don't have one yet.
That's another story for another day. No. I look at technology and it breaks. There's a reason why I love this game so much, and it's because I brick computers to the point that people look at it and go, a constant problem.
I gave it a 2 for materials. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it's not really exceptional. There is some stuff wrong, but like yeah. It's all cardboard cutouts. It does have, in quotes, original art, but it's all based on the game.
That's actually a deterrent. Anyone who plays Stardew wants their favorite wifeys and husbands to be like the right artwork for it. I don't like Shane's artwork, and it's it for me.
There are people who play with aesthetic mods that change the characters' artwork. And, I mean, it was close enough and of the game that I was fine with looking at it. Yeah, I mean, it was noticeable that it wasn't the original artwork, but I was fine with it.
Like all the hair colors and clothing were the right way, but it just was like that little uncanny valley for me. Like, this is so close to it. It's not.
I guess coming into this from a perspective where I haven't played the game, a lot of the games that I do play have some for about the same cost. Like Cosmic Encounter is about $60, right? And it has some wild art, but it's all very pretty and very detailed. And this really isn't. Like it's all very flat, and I suppose that's meant to kind of be based on the style of the game, and that's fine. But on top of only having cardboard pop-out pieces and no organization and some very bland art, I mean, it's middle of the road, so I give it a 2.
My biggest thing is not the biggest thing, but the deterrent on what I wish was, yes, other than the organization. The pawns they use are standard pawns, and it would have been really cool to have like a 6-bit farmer or a
meeple.
chicken. Like but something, because right now they're just like, I don't even know.
They're like the sorry pieces.
Yeah, they're sorry pieces. But they could have done something more fun with it, and they just didn't pick up the ball. That also can be fixed by Etsy, though, and that will be with my next paycheck.
Yeah, as I said, nothing really stood out on the materials aside from everything you mentioned. Like, I mean, I would have liked if it looked more like the cover of your guidebook, where it has some depth to it.
Yeah, but I think it was 2 different illustrators, which is partially the issue.
You see what I'm saying?
I'd have to open the book and make noise to figure that out.
Just to give an example of good Stardew art, like the cover of the guidebook that you got, it looks wonderful. Yeah, it just looks flat.
Perspective-wise is on point from an art teacher's perspective. It's done with a foreground, middle ground, and background. Fancy words. But I can understand, coming from the other games we've done, this has always been a cozy game where the artwork is mild. It's supposed to be as calming as possible. Even the scary parts are often calming and or comical.
I don't know. I felt at peace looking at the materials. That's why.
But we're also avid Stardew people. That's the problem. There's target audience on one side of the table right now, and thrown into this on the other side of the table.
It's fair. I feel like I offer a unique perspective. I just wanted to voice it.
Oh, for sure. It's important. Got the better list. Can you tell us what's next?
Did anyone else want to cover materials real quick?
No, Brooke pretty much covered everything.
I will say the box is also sturdy. They printed it right. It's going to stay still. Like some of the ones we've gotten, I know if there's one wrong hit, it's going to break in half. This is not the problem here. It's the inside of the box. It's the problem.
Setup is next.
Ah.
Yeah, and for setup, for the same reasons, like the box organization, I gave this a 1.5. No matter how you spin it, you're either going to have a bad time cleaning up or a bad time putting it out. It's the organization of the box is atrocious, like Brooke said.
I timed it. It took me 20 minutes on my own to set it up, and I was with the book the whole time because they do give a suggested setup, which I did. So it took 20 minutes to set up and 10 minutes to take down, only because I was just like done with it and throwing everything into whichever bag I could find because I didn't label the bags. That's step 2.
It really shouldn't be on you to label the bags.
This is fair. The fishing bag's easy to find. The mining bag, those are velvet. All the other little ones.
I do like those bags.
So those bags definitely got serious points.
Although apparently in 3rd edition they ran out of the blue bags and some people got black bags. Fire was shipped out incorrectly.
That's 0 points of materials.
I don't play a lot of board games with this many materials,
That's a lot.
so I could not imagine setting this up.
Yeah, the setup on this, I don't envy you the task of having to get all this out, and because now that we've thrown it into the bag again, I'm sure the setup will take a little longer. We also had some hiccups with setup initially. after rereading the rules a few times.
Yeah, to be fair, also, when we were playing this, I was frantically trying to find the clicker in my house for the TV so that we could listen to Stardew Lo-Fi in the background. I was partially distracted in the fact that I somehow lost a clicker. The 10 minutes you showed up when I turned off Brooklyn Nine-Nine and got you guys things to drink.
Me 3 seconds to find.
Object permanence is hard.
Okay, that's why we have friends. Oh.
Bill does the same thing at work.
Oh, constantly. Constantly.
He'll come to the front and like, can't find this, and I'm gonna go back. I'm like, it's right there.
Object permanence is hard. Brains don't like it.
No, they don't.
Any other notes on setup for you guys?
I love the game. I hate the setup
never
and the
want to do
takedown.
it.
I literally bought a $50 insert, which is coming to me so that I can reorganize this and never do it again because it has individual spots for the cards.
Once again, it could take some notes from how Eclipse organized everything, because that was a ton of pieces. And they had individual slots for each one, kind of like they have for the tray for the resources, but better.
Yeah, well,
because you could basically store them in there with a lid.
Yeah, the tray was a valiant effort because the tray holds probably about 50. Do you think small tiles for different plants and such? So I really think they spent all their time making sure that didn't get out of control and forgot that cards are also on Wiki. Like they just took the hardest element, made something for it, and said, they'll figure out the rest.
How did everyone feel during gameplay? Ready to play?
I gave it a 3. I had fun. It was just enough downtime that I could go to walk around if I needed to, but also had things to do if I wanted to sit there too.
I was telling Ian about this the day after we played. I feel like we gave it a 1 first. I feel like this game, in order for you to succeed, you basically needed to have all of your turns figured out from start to finish and adapt to the season cards rather than wait for the season cards to get played and then like try and plan around that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that kind of takes away a little bit of the fun of the game when you're looking at it from that sort of meta standpoint. I feel like if you took away a lot of the constraints that we've talked about already, a lot of the rate of play issues will go away. But as it stands right now with the core rules,
this is definitely room for home brewing, which I am always a proponent of. And it is more fun when you homebrew it and don't play base.
Yeah.
I gave it a 2 for rate of play. I generous 2 is what I wrote in my notes here.
Okay.
But I was mostly engaged for the most part as we went through this. There were definitely times where it felt like it sagged a bit, and especially as, like, once again, having to stop every few turns or so, or not even few turns, every few actions to make sure we were doing it the way that it was intended. And I know that's really more my thing and not as much Brooke's, but
look, I didn't realize 3 hours had passed. That's an issue. Well, not an issue. That's a good thing.
If we had finished the game entirely, I mean, we would have ended up doing that for about 6 hours, and halfway through we were drained. 6 hours based on where we left off. To be fair, I think that picks up a bit as you move forward. You get more resources from crops later in the season, it looks like, and that should speed things along as far as getting money, as far as getting resources. Obviously, you gather stuff through like the animals and everything as you go, and it makes things go a little faster and gives you more wiggle room for the achievements and the goals you have. But 3.5 hours is what they call a long game for this. According to Boardgame Geek and according to this game, it's 45 minutes to 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours is already quite a lot for a game that is just based on a video game. But in both of Brooke's experiences, this went on significantly longer.
Oh, because we made it that way. Like with this, it's time to either you win or you lose.
Even in those 15-minute segments, though, it would have gone much longer. It sounds.
You say is long for a board game based on a video game, but the video game we're talking about takes so many hours.
Yeah.
So I just, for any Stardew people who might have caught that.
I'm sure I've incurred the wrath of all of
just to preface,
all the homesteaders.
To be fair, I gave it a 1 for rate of play. I loved my time playing. Yes, I agree with Brooke that that time flew by. I didn't even know they were playing for like 3 hours. But constant stopping and checking the rules. And then there was several times where I was confused as to what turn we were on.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, we have not finished our turn. We're still in a certain phase. And I got that confused multiple times. So in terms of that, that's why I scored the rate of play a little lower than that.
Usually rate of play for me is just, can it hold my attention or not? Which is a feat. So that's usually what I focus on.
Fair enough. How much did this cost?
So when I bought this, it was $55 on the Kickstarter. It is now $50 on their original website and going for $56 on retail websites. So it's not that far off from when it first came. And honestly, I don't think that's that bad of a price for the sheer amount of cardboard in this game.
Yeah, for the price, it's actually fairly good. Honestly, too might be a little unfair for $50. On average, something that costs 60 is going to be smaller than this.
It depends on what we're talking about, honestly. But for me, this is what I expect out of a $50 game. There was a lot of content in it. We are not wanting for content. We are wanting for less, which, for $50, that's a fair thing to have. A fair amount of meatiness to it and concepts.
I give it a 2. I mean, it's once again, $50 for a board game, not too bad. I have comments about selling basically at cost as a Kickstarter to try to put to test the waters for your product. That is a whole different conversation. But for cardboard cutouts, I've certainly seen more for about the same amount. Like we mentioned, what do you get for $60? Cosmic Encounter has some great minis for $60. This had the little peg minis.
That's fair.
And easily as much cardboard, just in different styles, with the large cards and the small cards. But how much was Stuffed Fables? Okay. And then Arcane Academy had a similar amount of cardboard pieces, which were, I'd say, similar quality to at least the first printing of this. And that was about the same price as well. So
then that's an okay thing, because we liked Arcane.
Well, we had some notes on the
yes,
materials
but
for that one too.
That was just the box.
Yeah, I gave it a 2. It's fair. Like I said, for another $10 in production value, you could have gotten those organizers in there and done a lot of good. And then it would have just been the same price as most other board games.
Yeah. I don't disagree with it. I just think, for me, when I'm looking at this, it's not necessarily the materials that made it worth it for this. It was the complexity in the content given. You can play multiple games of this without it repeating itself. So there's more content to this, even though there's not better materials.
I suppose I just see that a lot more.
That's fair.
It's not as unique of a thing for me.
It's not, but it also warrants a price tag as well. The more complex something is, it should be getting more money. There's more time put into it. All right, you're talking to an artist where it's my time has value. So it's.
I understand.
Yeah, it's two different schools of thought, which is a cool part. It was a nice fire in the fireplace, though.
Yeah. Thank you for hosting.
I set it up real cozy for the.
It was very cozy.
I'm just glad no one got burnt because we were very close to the fire.
So, going off of price and what you get for your dollar, extras.
I gave it a 3 because I want no extras and it comes with extras. I think that for me with extras, if it doesn't have anything and it doesn't need anything, cool, you get the 3 points. I'm glad they didn't put anything out. I'm afraid they're going to put stuff out for the 1.6. I will be honest. That's something they would do.
I gave it a 2.
I don't want anything else for this. It's already hard enough. We don't need bluegrass.
See, I gave it a 2 as well. I do see potential for an expansions if they didn't do it all at once. You know what I mean? for example, the grandpa objectives, right? You could have made that an optional feature for this game, and it still would have been almost as difficult, if not as difficult. And release that for as like a $5 card pack, $10 card pack, or an additional part of the game, and it would have increased the difficulty for the game while not taking away from everything. But instead, it's all just kind of thrown in there once. Or the museum, right?
The museum I'd see extra. Unfortunately, the grandpa's objectives are like a very integral part of the experience.
I think the extras could just add to the variety of game, but not if they would put extras. I'd want it to change the variety of the game, which the game still has a lot of variety and its replay value and what you can do in it. But I'd see it if there were to be extras just to change the variety and not the overall amount of objectives that you need to complete.
For me, the only extras I could see possibly being okay without being overwhelming would be meeples, different meeples you could buy, or better tokens for the hearts or something. But just to improve the aesthetic. I don't think if they put more content out, if it would work the same way. And just like you said, they've already put this whole game out. They can't take it back now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is why I give it the 2. It's already, all they need is already there, but maybe they probably should have done some of it piecemeal. I don't know.
I'm glad you
if that
think
makes
that
sense.
Way. I appreciate your opinion.
Or made some of it a little more optional.
They do have suggested rules that they change it with, where you could be like, don't do the community center, don't do this.
I did look through the suggested rules, and that is not what I saw.
I thought there was different.
There are. They have options to reduce the amount of turns you have per season,
okay.
And they have options to make things more challenging.
It was making it more challenging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I read it over with you.
Yeah. But I guess you could take those rules and then reverse of that to make it easier.
Now, speaking of changes to rules, do what you want for the game. I'm not gonna have fun your way.
It says take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I do this every time we play a game.
When we mentioned before how you had told me that in Stardew Valley the video game, the 1 year challenge is a challenge, not a goal necessarily, or a end all be all for the game. Why not just recycle 4 of the season cards once you hit winter if you haven't completed your objectives yet, and do another year? Where did you get from there?
It's totally what you could do. And
but I just used to play with the full decks for each season, but I'm a monster.
See, that actually might make it a little more challenging just because of the resource gain you get through the seasons, but
it just goes a lot slower. But you get to do everything.
Oh, yeah. You would, at one point, you just wouldn't have any forageables.
Yeah, but you don't really. It worked out fine. Either way, moving on.
Okay.
Besides my life choices.
You're staring at me like you want something from me.
I was expecting you to make a snide comment, to be honest.
I can be forgiving or not be paying attention. You don't know.
There was the latter. What's next?
Enjoyment?
Yeah.
3.
Full 3.
I loved every second of this.
2. With the caveat of tying into what we were just saying, I feel like I would have given it a 3 if we had continued to play with the incorrect rules from the beginning with the extended season cards. 4 cards a season is too little. It's too few.
Technically 5 with the end of season. Yeah.
Very stressful.
Way too few. But yeah.
I said 16 turns before. I meant to say 20 with the end of season card.
Well, that didn't do much. You said no more.
No, but it is an extra turn, I'm pretty sure. It's supposed to be a 20 turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gave it a 1 for enjoyment. I did not have a whole lot of fun.
This is your least favorite. No, why are you apologizing? It's your least favorite game style.
Least favorite game style. I also have learned I don't like Euro games. And because I was mentioning this to Larry as I was doing, because he was interested in playing the game initially, but Max has really wanted to play this for a while.
Absolutely.
And we just had Larry on. So
I wasn't doing this without Max. I don't know what to tell you about this.
But I almost stepped out so Larry could step in at one point. Because he was very upset.
So behind the scenes thing, we do have what you'd call it, hard stops. We do have some things that we just won't do. Mine are usually
we have
sports related. Yeah, we have passes. Mine are usually sports related or Star Wars related. I was surprised you didn't play it because I thought yours was these co-op games.
No, I'll play a co-op game, and there's some that I've enjoyed. I mean, a lot of the hit and roll games are at least partially co-op.
Yes, but
usually
those-
it's everyone but versus
Those
one
have
person.
your favorite aspect,
Yeah,
lying.
But
This one doesn't. When I put this to you and you started reading the rule book and it said that everyone works together, you're like, so I can't win?
currently, my only pass is Twilight Imperium. I'm
That's
down to at least try a co-op game.
Okay.
Who knows? I might be surprised. That's the whole point of this. Yeah, I didn't really have a whole lot of fun. To be fair, I was the one who felt the need to flip through the rulebook every time we did something because no
We
one knew what was
couldn't-
going on.
Yeah, but we also couldn't pry it from your hands. It was in your hand the entire time. You didn't put it back on the table.
Next to me the whole time.
That's one thing I wish they would do, especially since it's 4 players. If they had like 2 of the rule book, so you could have it one on either side
Or
of the
the
table.
cheat sheet cards.
Oh, I love cheat sheets. You know
Imagine a
that.
cheat sheet card for this.
That would be a little tricky, though. That would be a cheat passbook.
pamphlet.
Be a cheat sheet passport just piled up.
But yeah, I was talking to Larry, and he's like, "Well, this just sounds like a Euro game." And we looked it up, and that's what it's classified as.
Huh.
They're not incredibly popular, from what I've gathered. Like we were talking about people in our friend group who actually enjoy these kinds of things, and of the people who show up regularly for board games, there are 2. It is Larry and Barry, and that's it.
That's fair. Yeah, I would do more of these. So it looks like occasionally it will be Larry, Barry, and I. And Max, he's petting the box now. Have the correct list.
Recommendations. Is that what do we all got? Recommendations? Did we spell it correctly?
Sure.
I just didn't write it down.
RECOMBATION.
Oh, no.
I didn't even attempt. It's
But,
just underneath.
So, I would not recommend this personally. I gave this a 1 for recommendations. Once again, that is mostly up to personal opinion. But between the disorganization in the box, but it seems that it's really only appealing to people who've already played Stardew Valley video game, and the style of game that they've chosen to take with this, and the complexity of the game, which I'm saving till the end because I have notes. Why? Why would I wish this on someone else?
So, being a Stardew fan, you might assume that I would give it a 3. But I did go with a 2 because even though I do love Stardew, I would only really recommend this to a certain niche group of Stardew players.
That's why I gave it a 1.
Same.
But
I love this game.
if I found that group, I
Yeah.
would emphatically be pushing this towards them.
If that intersection of player and board game fanatic came together in the perfect, like, magical scroll style moment, then yes.
But even beyond that, the people who play Stardew are already going to know about it. When this board game came out, the only reason I knew it existed was because it was everywhere. I don't think they advertised it in game, but they definitely advertised it on the game for it constantly.
Yeah, because it was a huge jump for them. Like,
Oh, yeah.
before that, they had like some coloring books and the guidebook, but they don't normally, and like some plush chickens. They don't. This was a huge jump for them.
I am not saying that as a bad thing.
Oh no, I'm just stating what's happening.
I just don't think that my recommendation to anybody would really do any good.
That's, to be fair, that's kind of where I'm sitting too. Like, for all the attention I've given to trying to categorize this, at the end of the day, the only people who are going to really buy this are people who have played the game and know a lot more about it than I do. So, like, the people who my review would reach out to probably weren't interested in this anyway.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's yeah. We said the same thing like 3 different ways.
One.
We come up with a 4.
Up to you.
This is not for the faint of heart.
There we go.
Replay value. Another 1 from me.
I-
Is this because you wouldn't want to play it again? Or
That could be a part of it, yes.
Okay.
I would not be looking forward to playing this again. I do also give it a 1 because the length of the game more or less is incredibly out there for 4 people. I mean, it would definitely go a little faster if you're doing this alone, but I know there are people who love playing single player board games, but it's not me. So
Personally, advocate for single player TTRPGs more so than board games.
I gave the replay value a 3 because we didn't get through all of the
season cards, the way it's meant to be played.
You could have altering experiences,
endlessly altering, just like in the game.
I think it should have a 3, with the little asterisk that the rules should be changed to a homebrew setting.
I imagine most people would probably.
That's kind of a natural progression to it. The way that they have this set up in the book and the way they've made this, the genius of it is, and don't look at me like that. The genius of it is that you can adapt it very easily, which you can't do with a lot of games.
Yeah, this is a very adaptable.
Easily, like it wouldn't change a lot of mechanics. You wouldn't have to think about the implications of rules. I gave it a 3.
So sliding scales. Does anyone want to go first so I can stop being a negative Nelly as we enter each one of these? In under enjoyment and personal?
One innovative.
Same, actually.
Yeah, this didn't get good scores in this part. This is where, when we talk about our sliding scales, where something can be a good innovative or a bad innovative, this is very much like the negative side of innovative. It's very cool. It does take everything from the actual video game, pretty much, put it into a board game. But that is,
I mean, like I said before, I think the game was innovative in that it captured the essence and spirit of the game, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a board game format in terms of like how it's supposed to operate. So that's why I gave it like a 1 innovative. So I wouldn't even call it like a negative or a very, very positive for me.
yeah.
Some are just in like a gray area, acknowledging it, what it did accomplish, and what it failed to do.
So wait, did you also, Brooke, you gave it a 1 for classic as well? Or classic, sorry, innovative?
Innovative and complex. I gave it a negative.
Okay, actually, then
Wow.
my score is the highest on that sliding scale.
So weird.
Well, I think it's because I had such high hopes for this game, and I had so much invested in it emotionally that when it came to actually playing, as much as I enjoy it and as much as I have used this game quite a bit, probably one of the more used games I have because I only have so many people I play with and I can play this on my own. But it was a letdown to me, even though I enjoy it immensely.
So I actually gave it a 2 classic.
Okay.
Yeah, it's apparently different than everyone else. So it's true to the source material, for better and for worse. It doesn't really. It's a resource gathering game. I mean, I played a ton of these, although usually they have other elements to them, other than just resource divestment. You know, you don't have to just collect and spend as needed. Usually, you have, like, a lot of 4X games have a lot of elements that are very similar to this, but usually you gather them in a relatively similar fashion for different resources. Or in Catan has also other kinds of resource gathering that's very similar to this. The only part that's really bad about it is the fact that, and once again, going into complex, it has so many of them with different ways to gather them. And that kind of bogs it all down a bit. But it's based on an existing source, and it's, like you guys said, very similar to it, and takes all those elements and just kind of puts it onto paper, which doesn't always translate too well. Because there are other types of games that will tracking the resources in a game when it's put onto code is a lot easier than doing it on pen and paper.
I also should have mentioned this a long time ago. because this is a very important aspect of Stardew that we did not touch on. You can still marry the villager. So there is that aspect, although we did not get to do it in the game, you can still romance them just with less entertainment.
To be able to marry a villager in the board game, you need the pendant.
Yeah.
Which is one item out of the epic items pile.
Yes.
So you might not even run into it.
100%. But I am also just saying it is possible because that is also a huge aspect of the fan.
And we didn't even touch on like they did other stuff.
It basically is
from
an
the game.
extra player.
Yeah, but I'm just saying because that will matter to some people that are listening if they're buying it or not. That aspect is put into it, although much more difficult to achieve.
Last sliding scale. Simple and complex. I've been talking about this the entire time. Complex 1.
Yeah.
It bogs itself down in nuance for every action. Like there are some actions like watering crops where it is just as it is. You put your counter on that spot and you water the crops and that's that. Then there's fishing. Where
The fishing
there
was
is
fun.
an entire page of actions. There are 3 different spots to do it. There are
fun dice, special dice.
there are special dice that you roll to get it. There are traps that are not immediately available, and they require various aspects from other resource gathering to use.
And we never used.
No.
Because we never got to the monsters. We got halfway through this game. We had them on the board. We never encountered any of the monsters that would drop potentially the loot to use the special fishing traps.
I was working on it, and I was working on that too.
He was really going hard in the mines.
And I guess this is more a complaint of the style of game in general, but like you have to get one resource to get another resource to get another resource to get your completed goal. And they all build off of each other, and if you have to plan your turns out in advance, and even then the random events and the Joja cards can stop you entirely from getting an entire resource until you have other resources to put in to get rid of them to get that resource. It's a mess.
That's what Joja does.
Yeah,
mess it all up.
The whole system for resource is a mess, and the whole game centers around resources. So I gave it a 1 complex.
I gave it a 2, just because I felt like some pieces were missing to make it all work together. Maybe there was just too much to do at once, like you said, but I still kind of recognize what they were trying to do with all the elements of the game. I really wasn't sure whether to give it a 1 or a 2 on that complexity scale. And maybe that's just me being my 3rd time rating a board game on this show.
Well, technically you've rated 4 board games because you've done a double episode.
Right. Yeah. Wait, did I do 2 double Christmas
episodes?
Yeah.
So you've done this more
So
than
you've done 5.
So I've done 5.
Yes.
Wow.
Probably the most out of all of our guests.
Maybe Larry.
Maybe
I
Larry.
gotta put that on my resume.
Yeah.
Just put up on the recording studio wall.
Any last notes anyone wants to
Did
do?
you guys want to do...
Oh, I already said it. I got a 1 and we talked about
I said 2 complex. I think the genre, it's not independently and on their own. All of the mechanics are fine. There's just too many for its own good. Part of that might be down to us. Part of it's probably down to the game. I've been very harsh on this game up to this point, so I went gentle on the end. I think this thing can survive getting a solid for me.
To be fair, I'm rough on this game as a mother is to a child, where you're like, I just want you to be better because I love you so much.
Exactly. I'm not mad. I'm just
Disappointed.
really disappointed.
Final notes. I admire the ambition that went into making this, and I admire the love for the source material that went into this. Even if I'm not a part of that community at all, you can see it.
Yet. We will turn you.
You can definitely see, and listening to the story that you sent from the interview that came from Board Game Geek, where the creator talked about meeting the Concerned Ape and going over what they wanted for a game and how they wanted to accomplish it. fantastic.
It was nice to have that insight for once.
Good effort.
Oh yeah.
But it was poorly executed.
I just think it was ambitious for someone that didn't have as much experience. Like I feel like this needed to be a very experienced person.
And
like if this person had come back to it after they got a couple more games under their belt and they had a couple more mechanics under their belt, maybe.
It's a fun game if you have the time and patience to play it. But as it's intended, it's bulky and very overly complicated and probably not very beginner friendly.
No, it's not beginner friendly. You have to have some background. 100%.
Mm-hmm. And that can turn a lot of people away from this.
Like my final notes on this game, I've said what I needed to say about this, but in general, just to wrap it up, playing this game and experiencing it I enjoyed seeing all those elements. I lit up seeing what they wanted to do for the mining, for the fishing, for upgrading your tools, and sort of that escalation of getting more resources and being able to do more as you progress through the game. I thought all of that was wonderful, and the idea of it was great, but in practicality, it faltered.
Oh yeah. Score?
Yeah, final scores. I given this a 25 total.
21 from me.
27 with the 2 added points from me.
So with my 2 added points, it'd be 26.5.
Which brings us to a total of a little under 25. 24.8.
Probably one of our lower ones, which makes me so sad because this is one of my favorite that we've played.
I don't think I've been on ones where we've scored lower.
Yeah.
I think I remember like some 23s.
Spyfall got lower.
Yeah.
The last one that I was on,
maybe Munchkin.
No, Munchkin
got higher.
Munchkin got higher because I was the only one.
What was the last one I was on?
Not really
November.
strangers.
He wasn't on that one.
No. It was the party one.
I know what you're talking. Wrong Party.
Wrong
Okay.
party.
But I don't think Wrong Party got quite this low, unfortunately.
No.
They got close.
We at some point should probably put this on a plotting chart just for funsies. All of our episodes. It would just take a lot of back end for me to look up.
Just fast forward the end of all of our episodes, and we probably should.
Yeah, I'll get on that.
All right.
Well, we've got our ghostly caps on. It is the eve of year 3. We've evaluated the farm, and it's a lot, just like the game. Deceptively friendly, but deviously intricate. I hope everyone enjoyed the new update that came out. I'm still playing it and enjoying every second. If you're looking for a place you truly belong, head on over to Discord. Or for any comments and suggestions, reach out at dancingwiththebards@gmail.com. We're getting ready behind the scenes for Dancing with Pride in June, as well as our 2nd year of Camping with the Bards in August. You can also follow us on Twitch at WithBards, where Will and Larry are cooking up something extra exciting.
Hell yeah.
Which you can go into now, Will.
What you doing over there, bud?
Okay, yeah, we got some fun stuff planned to stream. Check us out on May 4th for a special Star Wars episode with just 2 of us. And hopefully more model painting videos and Game Night Thursdays will be starting soon.
Awesome.
Happy farming, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Enjoy your